Thank you for joining me. Thank you for taking time out of your day to come into my kitchen and come hang out. Today, you didn't see any posts on social media about what we were making today because honestly, I didn't figure this out until kind of last minute. Um, Earlier in the week, we were kind of talking about doing something a little on the lighter side, a little on something a little fresh. So what I've kind of come up with today is we are going to do a very simple salmon and green bean dish. Now, we're going to make a miso cream sauce that is going to give very similar flavors to like salmon almondine. You're going to get a very nutty, earthy, rich flavor out of this, and it's going to be really nice complement to the salmon and the lightness of the green beans. The green beans we're going to treat very, very simply, but we are going to show a quick process on here that actually I was asked about on live stream while I was playing some Assassin's Creed the other day. Um, Actually, I think it was before that. It was a couple weeks ago when I was still playing Skyrim. And somebody asked me about cooking something, and I mentioned the process of blanching. And they had no idea what I was talking about. So today, I'm making these green beans, so I figured it was a perfect time to touch base on this very simple yet effective process that really makes a big difference when it comes to cooking vegetables. So, we're going to blanch our green beans, we're going to get our salmon working with our sauce, and then we're going to come back and cook the green beans. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our green beans, which I have right here, which, right now they're coming into season. And all we really want to do is we're going to take our beans, and on the end, one end you can just kind of pull that long shingle off. It's not really a big deal. But the other end is a stem. Now, this is just a very tedious process, but it's a very necessary one when it comes to beans. Now, you can do this, obviously, you can grab a little paring knife and you can get in here and press it up against your fingers and kind of do it that way. Personally, I feel this way is a little bit safer when it comes to using your knife, and it's a little bit quicker because we're just going to do that. We're going to take all that, and we now have nice trimmed green beans. So I'm just going to take the rest of these, again, just one bunch at a time. We're just going to line all these guys up in the same direction, making sure that the stems are simply all at the top. And then once we're done with that, again, we're just going to take our knife and we're just going to trim the top of those beans. So I'm just going to continue going through the rest of these beans, trimming all these stems off and getting them ready for the blanching process. Now, what is blanching? It's a very good question, and it's a process that, outside again of restaurants and a few people here and there, most people do not blanch their vegetables. No, really all we're doing is we're going to throw these vegetables into very nicely salted, very, very boiling water, and we're going to very quickly flash cook them to approximately 80% done, and then we're going to pull them out and we are going to shot cool them right down into some really cold ice water to stop the cooking immediately. But what it does for stuff like green beans is that it sets the color, which is really great. So again, we're just going to make a trim there. We're going to take all this extra. We're going to get rid of that. So I now have all my green beans. So these are all trimmed. They were already washed. We're ready to go. Now I have a pan of very salted water that is coming up to a really nice quick boil. We're going to drop all of these in here. These are going to take like 3 minutes total. That's all we're going to cook these in the water for. So this is coming up to a boil. So we're just going to take all these beans and we're just going to put them right into the nice hot water. Now again, move them around. Get that salt going and get all those flavors in there. And all we're doing is we are very quickly just seasoning and really quickly just cooking these, and it's, like I said, it's going to set the color and it's going to add just a little bit of seasoning, a little bit of flavor, and it's going to make the secondary cooking process a lot quicker. Now when we're actually ready to finish cooking these are going to take 90 seconds, 2 minutes at the most in the pan with some really nice hot oil. We're going to add a touch of butter to brown the butter just a little bit to add a little more layer of flavor, salt and pepper, and we're done. So again, we're just moving these beans around Just keeping them active, keeping them moving around, circulating in that nice boiling water, just to blanch them, just to get that color set. Now, with beans, it's nice because you can start to see the skin thin down a little bit, and you can actually see the individual bean in the stock. So you'll know that these are done. So right now I've turned the heat off. These are just going to sit in here for another 30 seconds, but you can see right kind of through there, you can actually see the bean poking through the skin a little bit as that skin tightens up and starts to reveal what's going on the outside. So all I'm going to do with these now is I'm going to come over to my sink. I'm going to use my tongs to hold these back. We're going to pour out that hot blanching water. Get that water out of there. Be very careful not to burn yourself with that water. It is obviously boiling water. It's very hot. So now we're just going to take these very hot beans. I have some ice water here on the other side. And we're just going to take those beans and they're going to go right into that ice cold water. Now, as soon as they hit the water, the one thing you are going to smell is you are going to smell the bean, the actual bean itself. It has a very, very, very strong aroma as when you blanch it because you're stopping the cooking process in a very rapid fashion. We are halting that completely by just shocking it down into that ice cold water. Now, these beans are going to cool down. They're going to get really nice and cold. They're going to shock right down. We're going to take all the heat out of them just by moving them around a little bit. Now, the big thing that you want to do is after you shock something down is you don't want to leave it sitting in the water for too long. If it ends up sitting in the water too long, your vegetable or whatever you're shocking will become waterlogged. So really, as soon as I'm done cooling those beans down, we're going to take them, give them a really good shake, get most of that water off, and they're just going to go back into our bowl so they can start to drip dry. Now, immediately you're going to see, like, look at the beautiful color that these beans have set. They're absolutely gorgeous. They look like they're fresh out of the garden, and they kind of look like what you get out of a freezer bag because that is the exact same process that they use before they freeze. They par cook them in a very similar fashion, shock them down, and then they blast chill them. So they're completely set and you don't have to worry about them taking too long to cook. So now that our beans are done, we can move on to our next step, which is getting ready for our miso cream sauce. Now right off the bat, you might be wondering what miso is. Now if you've never heard of miso before, I'm sorry that you've missed out until now. So now we're gonna throw a little education your way. Now miso, simply, the basic form of miso is this is a fermented soybean paste. Sounds delicious, doesn't it? Fermented bean paste. It's amazing. This adds tremendous amount of umami, which is a glutamate sense activator. It adds an incredible amount of earthiness, the aroma. It even adds a meaty texture to a sauce because of the soybean itself. It is a phenomenal product. Miso soup, one of my absolute favorite things in the world, is very simply like this and water with a little bit of tofu and some seaweed. Pretty basic, incredibly delicious. So we're going to use this as a little bit of a flavor enhancer. We are basically going to use this as our almond flavor, like I said at the beginning. We're kind of making a riff on salmon almond bean. So this is going to create a nutty flavor and give us a really nice texture within our sauce. Now, this is a really, really basic sauce to make. All we're using is a little bit of whipping cream. We're going to use a little bit of lime, the zest and the juice, and the miso itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my zester. Now, if you weren't here the last time that we used this is another piece of equipment I absolutely highly recommend you go pick yourself up. Get yourself a little zester. I do recommend the Microplane brand. Again, not sponsored. Would love to be, but I'm not. They happen to make the best product, the product that I prefer. And get a really nice fine one similar to this. It's going to make your job doing something like this a lot easier. So we're going to want a good hit of citrus on top of the miso. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zest this entire lime right in here. Now again, what I love about this is you can just turn the guard around the other direction and it holds all of your zest in place until you need it. Now, that's all going to hang out right in there until we need it. And I'm just going to cut this right in half until we need it. So that's going to go to the side. Now, the miso cream sauce itself. I'm just going to start with some heat on a pan. We're going to take simply the straight up whipping cream, and we're very literally just going to pour this right into our pot. Now, we're not making a ton of this, so I would say we're using about 250 mils of cream. Now, the next thing I'm going to add, turn that light on first. The next thing we're going to add is right away, before we even get into this, I'm going to add my miso. Now again, it is very fragrant, is very meaty. It almost looks like hummus. So you see it there, it almost looks like hummus, and we're even going to pull some of that back, and it very much has that same kind of creamy texture as hummus. Now, I'm going to add, right off the bat here, we're going to add 1 and 2 heaping teaspoons right into there. Now, I'm going to keep my miso out because as we cook through this, we might have to add a little bit. Again, this is something I honestly actually haven't really ever made this before. We're just kind of winging it. We're going to try what's happening here. So, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my whisk. I'm going to kind of mash up that miso paste in there just a little bit, just to incorporate it directly into the cream, because we want that to really kind of just dissolve into there as that temperature comes up. So we're just going to let that sit in there, and it's okay that we have chunks of it right now, because as the temperature increases, it's going to melt that miso paste, and we're going to be able to stir it right in. So for now, that's all we need to do to get that cream sauce working. So right now, we're just going to let that do its thing. We're going to let it come up to a quick simmer. We're going to make sure that miso paste is really well integrated. We're going to turn it down. We're just going to very, very lightly reduce it before we add our zest and our juice. Now we're on to the main event. So today, as far as fish is going, I have decided with a piece of Atlantic salmon. Now, there is a ton of debate about whether Atlantic or Pacific salmon is superior. That debate is personal. It's what you like. Honestly, there's not an incredibly massive difference between the fish. There is enough of a difference that if you are a professional, you can tell the difference. Personally, as a chef, as a professional, someone who's done this for a long time, I prefer Atlantic over Pacific salmon. I like the cold water fish. I find that the meat, the flesh itself, is a lot more firm, and it handles high heat cooking like we're going to be doing today a little better. Nothing against West Coast salmon. Personally, I just prefer East Coast, so I'm an Atlantic salmon guy. So this piece I've got from my local fishmonger. Now, the nice thing about this is that all the pin bones have been removed. So you don't have to worry about going in here with a pair of boning tweezers and pulling out all the bones. Now, this is still on the skin, and the scales are on the skin as well. If this was descaled, you can cook this directly on the skin, and actually I highly recommend that. But I'm not going to take a lot of effort to take the extra scales off the skin, so I don't want to deal with that. So we're going to pull this directly off the skin. I'm going to show you a really easy trick on how to do that. So again, just going to pop over here, keeping an eye on my miso, my cream. Stir that up as the temperature increases, making sure that everything is incorporated really nicely. Oh, that's starting to smell really nice. Has such an earthy, and again, because it's fermented, there's a little bit of that funk in behind it. It's just wonderful. So, how to take salmon off the skin? It's very simple. The biggest thing that a lot of people make a mistake with is choosing a knife that's too small. The biggest thing that you want to do is make sure that your knife is going to go all the way across the piece of fish that you are taking the skin off of. That is incredibly important. If you don't have that, this is going to be a very choppy process that unfortunately can ruin the fish. So, this is what we're going to do. Right here at the very tip, so we are going to make a small cut with our knife. So we're going to lose that tiny little bit there, but that's it. So now that we've made that small cut, we can take our fingers, pull that flesh back. We're going to take our knife, slowly moving it back and forth while stretching the skin back towards ourselves. And you put the knife directly at an angle on that skin. As we rock back, as you can see, we're taking that flesh directly off the skin. Very, very clean. Now, take that skin, pull it tight, and continue that motion. Slow rocking motion while applying pressure at a downward angle towards the skin, which will make sure that that flesh stays up above it, and we can go all the way across. Now really get a good tight grab, and again, we're just going to keep going, out the other side, take your fish. Now the easiest way to see if you've done a good job, it's pretty simple. All we're going to do is we're going to flip this guy over, see how we look. We flip it over. Ooh. You can tell I've done that a few times. Now, there's a little bit of this extra fat just kind of sitting on there. I like to pull that off. It's up to you whether you do or not. I find it doesn't actually help anything. It just kind of gets in the way. So as you can see, that skin came off incredibly clean. Now again, that's 25 years of practice. Don't be discouraged if you can't do that. So we're just going to take that skin, get it right out of the way there. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to really quickly rinse my knife just to get some of the extra, there's not really a better way to describe it than skin juice off the knife. Now, my cream sauce has come up to a quick simmer here. So we've got the cream has come up to a full bubble. Now we're going to take that and turn it way down, like way, way down, almost completely down. We're just going to move that all around. And we're going to get some of that extra heat out. We're just going to whisk it. We're going to get that volume down. We're going to get some of that extra heat off. Okay, and now that is down to the temperature where we want it. That's going to simmer. So now, we're going to be basically cooking our beans and our fish at very similar times. So, the heat on both of these is going to be quite high. But first, we're going to come back to our fish. Now, I'm going to flip this guy over, and I'm going to cut 3 fillets out of this. So, really, when you're cutting fillets, that is completely up to you how big you want them. Personally, you really don't want to go anywhere between 6 and 8 ounces. Anything over than that, it's a little large of a portion. Plus, you're also getting into cooking size. It takes a little bit longer to cook. So, we're going to cut these into nice. I'm going to go probably right around this size here. And again, for this, because it's a really nice sharp knife, it's just one pull all the way across the fish. We're going to start in the front, pull it all the way across, and we don't lift the knife. We just let the knife do the work. So now at this point, we have 1, 2, 3 beautiful salmon fillets ready for the skillet. Now, once again, we're keeping this very, 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 very basic. So, I'm just going to simply take a very little bit of salt over top of each piece, like so. We're going to take just a nice 1 grind of pepper, spread across the entirety of the fish, add a little extra because I like the pepper. And I'm not even going to bother seasoning the bottom. The reason for that is because we're going to start fish on that top side searing. We're going to get it really nice and seared down, and that's going to leave some of that salt and pepper on the actual pan. We're going to flip it, and that salt and pepper is going to stay, and it's going to season that bottom part, no problem. Now, we're going to be adding a touch of extra flavor into this by using a little bit of canola oil. And we're going to use a little bit of browned butter. So the butter we're going to add in here, we're just going to toast it. We're going to cook it just a little bit to get those toasty, nutty, brown flavors out of them. So, we're going to add in about a tablespoon and a half of butter, or so of oil, in each pan. That out of the way. Then, as always, because we always have this readily available in the kitchen, some salted butter. Now, I'm going to take about a tablespoon of butter for each of these pans. We're going to get that in there. Now, we want that to sizzle. We want that to get some color and melt down. That's going to give us a ton of flavor. Now, our bean pan here, I'm going to turn down, and I'm going to let that butter just brown up just a little bit. So we turn that down. That's going to sit in the back for just a moment while we get the salmon. Now, you can see that this pan is really nice and frothy, and that's because of the oil, and then we added that butter fat in there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my salmon, very simply, we're going to put it presentation side down first, just like that. Ooh, that's a good sound. So one piece in, the other piece right on top there. And we have this last piece that fits perfectly in the bottom here, just like so. Now, the beautiful thing about cooking fish, doesn't take very long. Nice thing about salmon, you can serve it medium rare. So we're just going to let that go. We're going to let that hang out. So I'm going to turn my heat back up on my beans. Now you can see in there the kind of brown, frothy, buttery goodness that's ended up as that liquid in there, which is ideal. So now we can come over here and very simply, we're going to take those blanched beans, boom, we're going to put them right in there. We're going to let all of that brown butter do all the flavoring on that dish. Now we're going to come back over here. Our salmon is cooking amazingly, looking beautiful. That butter is super frothy and delicious. And the nice thing, again, with cooking fish is that you can see the cooking being done on the gradient directly on the side of the fish. You can watch it cook up, so you know when to turn it. So again, our beans, all we're doing is we're flavoring these at this point. We're just forcing more flavor into them. So we're going to take a little bit of pepper. Crack pepper on those bad boys. Take a little bit of salt. Once again, probably right in that teaspoon area. A little bit of salt. On top of that, move those around, let those cook. Back to the salmon. At this point in time, we're just going to flip these guys. Oh my. So you can see the beautiful color that we've got on this salmon now. And that is entirely due to the brown butter. Now, that is just going to force so much flavor into there. That is just going to be absolutely incredible. Now, what we're going to do is that, now that we've flipped that, I'm going to turn my heat off completely. And that's just going to finish with the heat in the pan. Same with these green beans. The heat is done. I'm just going to turn them around one more time a little bit. Those are just going to hang out and finish. Now, we're going to grab the sauce from the back. Switch our pans around, put this guy back up front. You can see how much we've reduced. And it's now pulled this beautiful, slightly tan orange color. Now this is where we're going to get the real big flavor hit. So we're going to take that lime zest right in there, as well as the juice from that lime. We're going to squeeze all of that juice right in there. Now I put it back on the front burner there specifically to pick up the residual heat, just so we can bring it up real quick and I can incorporate all of that citrus into there. So now we have this beautiful, earthy, awesome flavor sauce, which we're just going to do a very simple salt quality check on. I've got to check the flavor as always. So I'm just going to take my spoon here. We're just going to, and that to me is the perfect thickness that we want. Just so the cream coats the spoon, but it drips off very, very naturally. So I'm just going to taste this real quick. Ooh. Earthy, botanical, citrusy, everything you want. Actually, that turned out really good. That's going to go on a menu someday. Mark my words. Right, you heard it here first. Okay, dinner's done. Let's plate this bad boy up. Let's get some things out of the way. Wipe down my workspace, and we're going to plate this. Now, as you can see, it didn't take a lot of effort, and it's not taken a lot of time to put this dish together. This is one of those 30-minute meals. It doesn't take a lot of time. There's a ton of flavor. Very good for you. And it's something different. It's something that is not your average run-of-the-day meal that you can find at anybody's house on a Thursday night. So we are going to take this beautiful piece of salmon, place it right there. Then all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a clean spoon that has not been in my mouth. We're going to take some of this beautiful miso lime cream sauce. And I'm just going to take some of this and we're just going to pour that right on top. And it doesn't need a ton. We're talking 3 spoonfuls and that's it. That will season the entire dish. Everything on that plate is now going to be beautifully seasoned, lots of flavor. It's healthy, it's simple, it was quick, very easy to do, and it's something that will be something different on your plate with the incorporation of the miso and the lime into your cream sauce. Now, again, miso, explore with it. It's super inexpensive to pick up a tub of miso. There's tons of recipes that are involved with it. It's very easy to use, and it is incredibly, incredibly delicious. Go seek it out. Try miso soup at your favorite Asian restaurant. If they have it there, try it. It's usually delicious. It's one of my personal favorites. I highly recommend it. But that's it for tonight. That was probably one of our shorter cooks that we've done. It's been a while since we've come under the 30-minute mark on a cook. So there we go. There's a 30-minute meal. Green beans, simple salmon, miso cream sauce, delicious, simple, basic, flavorful. And it's a great way to get people into fish because it allows you to put a lot of flavor in there without it tasting like fish. So as always, I like to end with saying thank you so much for coming and joining me. Now that we've hit affiliate, there are a couple of ways that you can help support the stream. You can hit the donate button underneath the stream there. You can purchase any of our merch. Anything that is purchased, donated, subscribed to, anything that comes our way is going to be put directly back into the stream. I really want to make sure that we are getting you guys the best quality ingredients that I can source, that I can show you how we can make some amazing food with some incredible ingredients. So if you like what you see, if you have the time, if you have the extra funds, if you'd like to support us, that's amazing. If not, please just keep coming back. That's the best kind of support you can give. So keep coming back. We love having you here. Thank you for coming into Tuck's Kitchen again tonight. As always, we love having you here. Thank you for the support. My name is Scott. That is salmon with miso cream and green beans. Thank you so much for coming and have yourselves a great night.